Good morning and welcome to Contour's travel webinar featuring Sacred Valley, Machu Picchu and Cusco. Just to know that I can be heard, if someone could just type yes in there, just so that I know that I can be heard.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, my name's Rodney. I'll be hosting this morning's webinar on the Sacred Valley, Machu Picchu and Cusco. Okay, as much as I'd like to, it's a lot to fit into a 15-minute webinar, so if I run a little bit over, I do apologise for that, but I'm sure you'll appreciate the vast area that we're covering this morning. Okay. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the Sacred Valley. Now this is the Sacred Valley of the Incas along the Urubamba River Valley, located just outside of Cusco, and that is the gateway to visit the ancient Inca Citadel of Machu Picchu. Okay, so afterwards we'll have a little bit of time for questions if you've got any questions, and also you'll go in the running by visiting our webinars. By answering a question, you can go in the running to win a family trip to Ecuador. Okay, so the area that I'm covering essentially is located around Machu Picchu, Sacred Valley and Cusco. Now to get to this area, you have a choice coming in, International Gateway of Lima. There is direct flights around about 18 a day operating between Lima and Cusco by land airlines, Avianca and a couple of local carriers. There is also a daily flight operating between Arequipa and Cusco, Juliaca or Puno and Cusco, Puerto Maldonado for people wishing to visit the Amazon region. And this is only a 35-minute flight, so it's a very good option for people on a short time frame wishing to visit to the Amazon rainforest. There are international connections from La Paz in Bolivia and from Bogota in Colombia, and there is a new airport being constructed which should be finished in the next 3 to 4 years, which will mean that there will be long-haul international flights coming in and out of Cusco, but that's down the track. There are other options to travel into Cusco by land, essentially taking a tourist bus service that operates between Cusco and Puno daily in both directions. There's the Andean Explorer train that operates. At the moment, this is the train in the picture here, and that operates on a Monday, Wednesday and a Saturday. And from the May the 1st of 2017, they will be upgrading and changing that train, where it will be operating on a Cusco, Puno, Arequipa 3-day, 2-night or 2 days, 1 night between Cusco and Puno. That's going to be a very luxury Belmont high-end type train operating on that route. So travelling into Cusco, the Sacred Valley area, the altitude, remember this for the question, is an altitude of around about 3,300 metres or about 10,000 feet in old money. Okay, so as you can see, the temperatures don't get incredibly hot. You're looking at sort of 19, 20 throughout most of the year. But what does vary is the wet and the dry season. So November to March is the wet season, and the April to October is the high season. Now when you're looking at temperatures of 20, 19 sort of through here, generally because of the altitude, the temperature feels like about 25. I'm speaking from a little bit of experience. I actually lived in that area for 5 years in Cusco, and for another 5 years I was tour leading around the area before that. So around about 10 years in that area. The best time of travel for me is April to May and September, October, because you're at the end of the wet season, so there's water in the rivers and the streams, the flowers are blooming and everything's green and had a little bit of a wash. And as you're getting towards the end of the dry season, One, because of these are the main months, June, July, August, and at the time in September, October, the numbers are dying down a little bit, but also those rains coming just to give everything a little bit of a freshen up as such. Okay, I'm just moving around a little bit here. Okay, now generally, as I mentioned, with Cusco having an altitude of around 3,300 metres, this can be a difficult step to go into Cusco initially for tourists. So what we're tending to do is fly people into Cusco, pick them up at the airport, and then transport them down into the Sacred Valley of the Incas. Now this journey takes, if you would go direct, takes around about an hour and a quarter, and the Sacred Valley is at an altitude of around 2,700 metres. So that allows for a more gradual acclimatisation to the altitude. So you have a couple of days, 2 to 3 days in the Sacred Valley as a general duration of length of stay before travelling on to Machu Picchu, which is lower than the Sacred Valley. So you've had 3 to 4 days around mid-range altitude before travelling up to Cusco so that the step isn't so big. What we do, time permitting and time of flight permitting, is to travel via a couple of sites on the way into the Sacred Valley Hotel, visiting to Agua Pura to see the various different weaving techniques performed by the Andean ladies there. They also have a series of the different cameloids, alpacas, llamas, suris, vicuñas and guanacos on display there, often via Pisac Market or Pisac Ruins, or a stop can be made at the Sacred Valley Museum to learn a little bit more about the Incas that you're going to be seeing some of their structures over the coming days. Once you get into the Sacred Valley, you can see that all of the hotels, it's not really a city or a town as such where we stay. A lot of the hotels are more countryside. So you've got the 5-star options in the Belmont Hotel Rio Sagrado, the Tambor del Inca by the Libertador, the Inca Terra Hacienda Urubamba, spelled wrongly, the Aranwa Sacred Valley Hotel, and then the Soli Luna, which is one of my favourites, just because of the types of rooms, the expansive gardens, and the activities that they offer from the hotel. Some 4-star options, Casa Andina, which is a Peruvian hotel chain, Sinesta, which is about a 3.5-star, once again with beautiful gardens, and the Picara Tumpu, which can be a good 3-star option, and it's located right next door to Ollantaytambo train station, so they can just save some money for people on a little bit of a budget in regards to reducing transfer costs. Okay, some of the sites of the Sacred Valley are the Inca Fortress of Ollantaytambo, Tambo meaning like storehouse in the Inca Quechua language, and they've done a series of terraces there where they used to, agricultural terraces, grow their produce and store them there, and that was part of the, in the valley, which eventually leads up the Urubamba Valley and onto Machu Picchu. So there people on their religious pilgrimages would stop off in Ollantaytambo to break the journey on their way to Machu Picchu. Chinchero with the Inca walls there and the colonial church, the Maras salt mines, which is still used today where they mine salt from here, and also the Marae agricultural rings where each different level has a different ecosystem, and the very advanced Incas 500 years ago used to use these to experiment with the crops to see what grew best in what area. Okay, so they were quite advanced. So typically people staying in the Sacred Valley will do a full day tour which would incorporate something such as Ollantaytambo, Marae, Maras and Chinchero. That can be done on a day with different options to include visits to the Seminario Pottery Workshop, incorporate weaving lessons, a llama trek in the areas around Ollantaytambo, or possibly including a community project visit. Okay, with the community project, Contours Travel has been working in this area on a project called the Agua Pura or Pure Water Project, where donations have been made to buying these water filters to provide the children within the schools and the outlying communities in the Cusco area with fresh drinking water, which certainly we believe in giving a little bit back to the communities in which we have people visiting as such. Okay, there are what we'll be looking at now is getting to Machu Picchu. So you've got options where you can do the Inca Trail, 2 days, 1 night, Classic Inca Trail, 4 days, 3 nights, Luxury Inca Trail, 5 days, 4 nights, Salcantay Laras Trek, and those will be covered in my webinar next Friday. But today, essentially, I'll be focusing on the train journey to Machu Picchu. Okay, so the train journey from Machu Picchu, I mentioned about being in the Sacred Valley, which is Ollantaytambo's in the Sacred Valley. So normally we transport you to Ollantaytambo train station and taking the train, that direction, the train to Machu Picchu. Okay, quite often they do start in Peru, close to Cusco, via Ollantaytambo, but what we tend to do is the Ollantaytambo to Machu Picchu, which is 1 3/4 hours of very scenic, passing up through the Urubamba River Valley with the snow-capped volcanoes off to the sides. Okay, when we're doing the train journey up to Machu Picchu, so as to give the people the opportunity to fully experience Machu Picchu, we recommend a 2-day, 1-night visit. So spending 1 night rather than sort of trying to fit everything into 1 day, is overnighting in Machu Picchu village, having 2 visits to Machu Picchu before returning on the following day. Okay, that way, just in case there is rain, you are able to still get hopefully a good day at Machu Picchu. So there are 3 categories of train: the expedition, which is the basic range, but still has the high-end windows, or the visibility windows, so you can see the mountains as you pass through. The Vista Dome, which is the mid-range category, very good, slightly more comfortable than the expedition. And then there is the Belmont high-end train, which is the Hiram Bingham, which operates between between Peru and Machu Picchu, including dinner. They have lunch on the way there. They have a music show, and that includes the tour and transport up to Machu Picchu. Okay, so that's 3 options for the train there. Now, because of the dry season, they don't all operate to and from Cusco or Peru station, but during the wet season they only operate between Pacha or Ollantaytambo station. Okay, so that's the 1 3/4 hours as opposed to the full 3.5 to 4 hour journey from Peru. With the Hiram Bingham train, during the wet season, that operates actually from the Belmont Rio Sagrado Hotel in the Sacred Valley, so that can be a good option to travel during that time. Now, in regards to visiting outside of the normal dry season, it still can be visited and beautiful to visit in the months over December, January and February. You just have to expect a little bit more rainfall during that time, so certainly a 2-day, 1-night visit to Machu Picchu recommended at that time. So after your train arrives into Ollantaytambo, you have to take the bus, which will take you on the 35-minute trip up the mountain to reach to Machu Picchu. Now, all of our programs that we put together include entry fees to Machu Picchu, which need to be purchased in advance, and there are restricted numbers on these, and also include the tour of Machu Picchu with a professional English-speaking guide. Okay, so this is a beautiful photo looking over the Machu Picchu Citadel. This photo is actually taken from the Sun Gate, where you enter if coming from Machu Picchu, but you can also hike up to there, which takes a little bit over an hour if doing the Machu Picchu tour. So that's why we like to include the 2 days, 1 night. You've got the Citadel and you've got the Huayna Picchu mountain behind there. People wishing to climb up there, you can climb up through there, through the little saddle there, and climb up to the top on the very steep and narrow stairways with high steps to reach the top for a different panoramic view looking back down into those. Permits need to be purchased for those in advance, and there are a daily limit of 500 people who are able to do that. Okay. So the tour will take in the highlights of Machu Picchu, showing some of the incredible stonework of the city that was only discovered by Hiram Bingham in around 1911, which was basically totally grown over with the jungle. So you've got the mountains around there, a pretty much dense jungle, which will grow back over the top unless it's kept trimmed. So that's how they managed to find it, with a little bit of help from the local population. Okay, when in Machu Picchu, you can choose to stay at the Belmont Sanctuary Lodge Hotel, which is located outside the gate. Now, it might be a little bit of a myth where you're going to have a room that you can see Machu Picchu from. You can't. You can see the mountains around there, but you're just outside the gate, and it's sort of set below it, so you can't actually see Machu Picchu from it. So you can get a mountain view room. The rooms are quite small. It is high-end, but it does come with an incredibly high price. A better value for money is the Inca Trail Machu Picchu Pueblo, located down in the town. Just whilst I was talking about myths, the other myth about Machu Picchu is people getting up there to see sunrise over Machu Picchu, but with the mountainous surroundings of Machu Picchu, by the time the sun comes up, okay, it's well and truly daylight before the sun actually rises over the mountainous horizon. So you never see from the sun gate Machu Picchu with the sun behind it. It's always rising from the sun gate. So you're never looking at the sunrise or the sun coming up over Machu Picchu. Bit of a myth, that one. Okay, so we've got the higher end hotels. The Sumac, also recently renovated, beautiful hotel, stayed there, as I have at the El Mapi, which is around a 3.5 star, a wonderful option. Okay, Casa del Sol, a little boutique hotel, Casa Andina, part of the Casa Andina chain, and a couple of other options there. So there's a variety of hotel standards within the village of Machu Picchu. Okay, moving on to the wonderful city of Cusco. So after you've had your 2-day visit to 2-day 1 night, you catch the train from Machu Picchu back to Ollantaytambo, and then transfer by road onwards to Cusco. Now, Cusco being the former capital of the Inca Empire. Now, this is Plaza de Armas, which is reconstructed in colonial times with the La Compañía de Jesus Jesuit Church and the main cathedral on the main plaza there. Always a special place, and for me, the most magical or beautiful place in South America. One of. Okay, located in the area, we've got Inca Ruins with the enormous stonework of Sacsay Woman, which overlooks the city of Cusco, an Inca ruin there. So on the in the time in Cusco, we normally include a half-day tour, which includes visits to Sacsay Woman, to Tambo Machai, another close nearby Inca ruin, as well as Kenko, and the city of Cusco itself. Okay, it's a little bit of a step back in time for me. That's a church in Cusco where I actually got married in there. That's called La Merced. Okay, so that's just off the main plaza of Cusco. As I mentioned, I lived there for many years. Okay, also in the area you can undertake various different activities. It's always good to have a minimum of 3 nights in Cusco. Even if you just do the half-day tour and spend a day just wandering the cobblestone streets, having coffee, lunch in one of the cafes overlooking the square, or undertaking activities such as horseback, bike riding, river rafting, zip lining, shopping. You can undertake cooking classes and just enjoy some of the very, very fantastic Peruvian cuisine. Okay. There are a series of festivals that take place. There is actually more saints and religious days in the year than there are days. So there's often multiple days, plenty to go on. The main one is the Festival of the Sun, or Inti Raymi, which takes place not only at Sacsay Woman with the stands and the parades and everything that's set up, but also in the streets. This is the main square of Cusco here, okay, where they're paying homage to the Inca and the king, basically, and to the sun. There's other festivals that take place throughout the year, from Corpus Christi with the carrying of religious effigies out of the cathedral and around the square. The people are there's always a festival going on of some type, so you don't have to look too far. You'll hear the music, you'll see the people dancing throughout the year, all dressed up here. This one, the Senor of the Lord of the Miracles, where they carry the effigy of Jesus around the main square there, and that relates to the 1650 earthquake where they brought it out of the cathedral and all of a sudden the earthquake stopped. Okay, you can see the ladies in the traditional wear there. You'll often see them getting around like that. Sometimes if you're wishing to take photos, they might just put their hand out for an extra $1. Okay, huge assortment of hotels from the very high-end Belmont Monasterio, Palacio Nazarenas, the Marriott I've stayed in most recently, built in an old 16th century convent, from the boutique Inca Trail La Casona, 5-star Casa Cartagena, 4-star boutique hotel El Mercado, Aranwa, another small and beautiful hotel in the 4 to 5-star category, Palacio de Inca, 4 to 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. So there's a variety of different hotels, very close to the square, all colonial, generally built in colonial mansions with the central courtyard throughout them. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of our webinar today. You can see a man dressed in the traditional costume with his beer bottle dancing around in one of the many parades, and the question today that you have to send the answer to contourstravel.com is, what is the altitude of Cusco, which was previous or mentioned towards the start of the webinar today. Okay, now just before we start the questions, just to advise that we not only do Peru being a very popular destination, but also basically from the US border downwards to Antarctica and everything in between. We don't do Asia, we don't do Africa, but we are South American specialists, so please don't hesitate to contact us or look at our website. We've been in the business for 40 years, specialising in Latin America. Please feel free to type if you have any questions. If not, I hope you've enjoyed the information today, and please don't hesitate to get in contact if you need further information. Any questions? And just a reminder, next Friday at 11 o'clock, we will have the talk about, or webinar about, the Inca Trail, Salcon Tri, and the various different treks that there are to Machu Picchu. Inca Trail, obviously one of my favourites, which I was able to do 20 times.